Need an electrician? Then call Kent Electrics. We're NIC EIC registered, Part P compliant and members of the Medway Fair Traders. Domestic installations are our specialty and all work is covered with a 6-year guarantee.
Hello and welcome to today's video. Today, given that we have such nice weather, we're going to take a look at making off an SWA cable into a gland so we can fit it to a weatherproof box. In this kind of weather, people are considering things like outside lighting, ponds, water features and such like. This is typically the type of equipment that you'll be using to terminate any electrical piece of equipment in the garden. So let's have a look at where we start. There are of course specialist tools that you can purchase in order to cut SWA cable, but of course I like to use the old traditional method of a hacksaw. So in order to get a nice straight joint, a nice straight cut, what I tend to do is put a small wrap of tape at the point where I've decided I want to measure off my SWA. Of course, for those of you who don't know the terminology, SWA is steel wired armour, and the name will become apparent as soon as I start to strip this. So we get a band of tape around. That will give me my guide for cutting through to the armour so that I can expose the cable, and all I simply do is take my trusty hacksaw and score a line around the row of tape. So while I'm scoring around the tape to cut through the armour, I need to be careful not to go all the way through and actually hit the cable that's being protected by the armour. So I'm simply lightly scoring so that I get a score in the armour. Let me show you what I mean. If I take this protective sheath away, I can show you that I am barely cutting into the armour like such. Okay, if I take that away, then I should be quite easily able to strip away the cores, like so. And having scored them, they will just bend and peel away until they break free. And there we have the cable exposed. So once we get to this point and the cable is exposed, then we need to open our gland pack, and this is an external gland pack consisting of a shroud, which I'll put to one side, and the gland itself. Now there are a number of other items in the pack, such as what's known in the trade as a banjo. That we would use if we were making off into a metal fitting or a galvanized box, but in this instance we're making off into a plastic box, an insulated box, and we will use a different type of fitting to help us keep our earth continuous. The other thing of course in the pack is a locking nut, and again the locking nut would be used in a different type of box simply to lock the gland onto the box. The boxes that we're using today are a plastic insulated fitting, and they have their own threaded entry points, so that's what we'll be using. Okay, having opened up the gland pack, we then need to get the shroud into place, and it's a very simple technique for doing that. Nothing scientific about it. Simply match up the shroud with the SWA cable, get the diameter right where we want it, pinch the shroud, and then either a cutter's or a Stanley knife, we simply nip away the end of the shroud. That should now comfortably slide over our SWA, and we want it to be nice and tight, not too loose. It needs to be tight but yet be able to just slide away. Okay, so we move that back down onto the SWA cable for a short piece, and then prepare our brass gland. This is an external gland. It has a weatherproofing seal. That needs to go on first. That then gets followed by the connector section, which will help to terminate the sheath as part of the earth. So that goes on first, then there's a little brass ring that goes over that. We'll explain that in just a moment. And then once that lot is in position, we come back to our tape and with our Stanley knife remove the outer sheath around that section of tape. And then taking that away like so. And here's the trick of the trade: simply get it to fan out by doing a simple rotation like that. With that now fanned out, we can put the remaining part of the gland in place, making sure that all of the parts of the protective sheet are on the gland. Okay, then as we move the ring up into place, the ring will pinch it and this connector nut will lock it into place. So we'll take that like so, making sure we get it on the right thread, not the wrong one. So make that off just like so. Then we can push into place the weatherproof seal. This seal, when it locks into place, will close up a rubber bushing around the base of the SWA to prevent any moisture getting in. So we have them all hand tight at the moment. Taking our spanner and adjusting it accordingly. We then need to just give it a couple of turns in order to tighten it up. Weatherproof seal, just a couple of turns to make sure it tightens up around the base of the SWA, keeping it nice and cleanly sealed. And there we go. That is our gland pack made off. We will then very simply strip the cable. Again, I like to use a knife, so deciding that we want some of the insulation inside of the box, take it up perhaps about 2 inches away from the gland, score around, being extremely careful not to score through to the inner cores, because we're now at the insulated sheet that protects the conductors. So those are our conductors now bared and available, and the next thing we need to do is just make it off in the box. The box, as I mentioned before, has a its own threaded entry, so we just need to simply perforate the entry point like so, and then in this instance we can screw the box onto the top. This could have been done a different way. The gland could have been screwed into the box first and then made off, but for the purposes of the video I wanted to keep it quite clean. So that is the SWA terminated into an external box. So if you're terminating a piece of equipment, which may be the subject of another video, we would then put a stuffing gland in another one of the entries, run our connections in, terminate our connections using either terminal blocks or Wago blocks to our conductors, and run it off to our final piece of equipment. Of course, remembering to sleeve or mark our cables accordingly. For our green and yellow for the earth would be the black, and our blue for the neutral would be on the grey. And of course, just to finish up, we need to push the sheath in place, which protects the whole assembly from weathering. And that is how you terminate an SWA gland into a weatherproof box. If you don't feel confident or competent when carrying out any electrical work, then please look for the help of a qualified electrician. Thanks for watching. The purpose is, the reason for this is it for your external lighting. Stop.